welcome to Sebuleni. I'm your host, Carol Mandi. Today's show is all about money, money, money. Your attitude towards your money, how it affects your relationships, and how to make more of it this year. We're now joined by personal finance advisor Manyara Kirago, the founder and principal of First Independent Advisors, the first fee-only financial planning firm in Kenya. He is the person to see when you need to streamline your finances, achieve your goals, and build a better life through professional financial planning. We're honored to have you, Manyara. Karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Manyara, you've just seen that clip there, and money in and of itself in relationships, we know that is a big cause for marital strife. Why is this the case?
Actually, it is not money that is the cause.
Yeah.
Rather, it is the difference in managing the money. Mm-hmm. People have different, what is called money personalities. Mm-hmm. That is the unique way in which each individual looks at money, yes, and manages the money and feels comfortable with the money.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, when two people get married and they have different money personalities,
yes,
then there is likely to be fireworks.
To be problems. And the interesting thing is in relationships we say opposites attract and then they attack each other later. And talking about money personalities, what are the money personalities that two people are likely to attract and then at some point later begin to have issues?
One kind of dangerous mixture is when the man in the relationship is one of these outgoing people, yes, who like spending money,
yes,
and somehow or the other they end up attracting somebody because of that spending money, somebody who likes being taken care of, like you had,
yes,
some of the other people saying, and then at some point in their lives when now they're married and then money becomes a problem. Like for instance, he loses a job. Now he's no longer, there's a big conflict because he attracted that partner because he looked like he could take care of her.
Yes,
but
yes,
now
was
suddenly
flashing a lot of money.
Yes,
yeah,
suddenly he's not able to, and the whole foundation of the relationship is gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, it's interesting because like for me, I found that when I got married, I was a spendthrift, and still I'm a spendthrift, and I was married to somebody who was a lot more frugal. And the issues there then had to do with, what are you spending your money on? And why are you not, and for me, towards him, why are you not, just giving me money to spend, yes, or those kind of issues. So for me, it was more of, I didn't understand what all this about being tight-fisted is. So are those some of the ways in which, let's say, an opposite, you can find that the two of you have opposite money personalities, and then that also creates some sort of friction.
That is true. Having different money personalities can create some tension. But then again, on the other side,
yeah,
you don't have to have the same money personality to get along.
Yeah.
All you need to do is understand each other, understand the different, where the other person is coming from,
yeah,
and then make adjustments.
Now, backgrounds. You mentioned where this person is coming from. Does that have an influence, your background?
If you're brought up in a family that was very frugal, or a family that believed that certain things are for the rich and we are not the rich. If you grew up hearing, where do you think money will come from? Yes. Money does not grow on trees.
Yeah.
Now, depending on how you reacted to that, you could either be a spendthrift or a very extremely frugal person, in fact, to the extent of being a miser. You see, if you embrace those values of your parents, then you'll have a negative outlook towards money.
Yeah.
But if you rebel against them, if you rebel against those
what you saw as you grew up, yeah,
then you're more likely now to go to the other opposite extreme. Remember, no extreme is very helpful in managing your finances. Yeah. It's always a matter of balance.
A lot of times we read in the press reports of women, say, when they go through a divorce, for instance, primarily divorce, where they suddenly find that they go to court and they're fighting over property and they're told that this is not yours. So they're actually in a worse off financial situation than they were in the marriage. you know, and some of the traditional ways in which we have responded as women to money and how that affects us, or what kind of psychological bearing that has on us.
A firm in the US called Oppenheim Mutual Fund Company, it did a research on how women manage their money and how many of them are likely to end up managing their money themselves. And they found that between 80 to 90% of all women will end up managing their own money at some point in their lives.
Yes.
Some of them is because they get married much later because they're focusing on their careers. Others is because they never get married at all, so they manage the money throughout their whole lives. And for those who get married, many of them end up having a divorce. So they end up back holding the money. And those who don't divorce, whose marriages last, you find that men tend to die earlier than women. So again, the woman ends up with the money. Now, women have tended in the past to leave the money management to the men. In fact, if you remember one of those clips that was just played, talked about the men being responsible to take care of the woman. This is what is called a Cinderella complex.
Yes.
And in fact, the Cinderella complex is basically about many women's fear of independence, which is manifested in, I don't understand money, I don't want to handle the money. And so in the past, they didn't have this opportunity or the likelihood to actually learn how to manage the money. But because they're going to handle it anyway, it is very, very important that they teach themselves some personal finance management skills.
From your experience, how are some of the ways women have perhaps suffered because of that mindset of it's the men who will take care of the financial planning?
In many cases, you find that women, when they actually end up investing, they become too conservative.
Yes.
And for the very fact that they're going to end up with many years of managing money by themselves shows that if they end up investing too conservatively, they're going to suffer in them because they won't have enough money.
Yeah.
So being conservative is one of those problems. And but on the other hand, women have some advantages which they can actually focus on. Women are much more consultative.
Yes.
They ask questions. They are willing to admit they don't know.
Yeah.
When they invest, it's egoless investing. And as opposed to men who tend to be very ego-driven and who tend to take big risks. So if the women focus on the positive characteristics, they can actually manage the money in a much better way.
Okay. And what about some of the disciplines that as women or anybody watching this show can put in place to actually ensure that they manage their finances a lot better?
A very simple way to to manage your finances is to look at what I call the 6 pillars of financial success.
Yes.
Number one, you must know your current position because you can't manage what you can't measure.
True.
So you have to measure your financial position. Next thing, you must have smart financial goals.
Yes.
Without goals, you're just a dead fish floating down the river. No control over your life. Thirdly, you must manage your cash flow.
Yeah.
You see, money flows into your life through your income, however you earn it. And then it flows out as you spend it.
True.
It is this flow which you must manage so that you achieve those goals which you set for yourself. And then you come to investing. Everybody likes talking about investing, but unless you know the others and you put them in place, investing wouldn't happen because you won't have the money to invest.
True.
So then once you know how to invest, then another important aspect is to manage your personal risks.
Yes.
Those are done through insurance and such things, and also having a will so as to protect your family in case something does happen to you. And that having a will is part of estate planning, which involves also keeping your documents in the right place, having the right real estate estate planning documents. And so that's risk management. And then the 6th pillar is just putting it all together and actually implementing it.
Yeah.
So those are the 6 pillars of financial success.
Wow, that's amazing. I like the way you categorize all of them, you know, and you talked about some of the things I picked up there were about net worth. You know, finding out what your financial state is, you know. Occasionally we're told once a year if you're able to please go for a medical checkup, and I like to think it's sort of like that. But maybe you can explain it, you know, a bit in greater depth, you know, what a net worth analysis is.
One's financial position is determined very simply by adding all the assets that you have, that is, the things that you own. and then adding all the debts that you owe, and then subtracting the debts from the assets. Simple as that. But when it comes to the assets, we like to categorize them in 3 separate categories so that you can be able to get a better idea of your financial health. And the first category we usually call cash and cash equivalent. This is money which you can access very quickly. Now, this is where you get money that you can use in case of an emergency.
Yes.
Remember, if you don't have money put aside for emergencies, every small incident in your life will become
Is an emergency.
It's an emergency, and it will become a stress-inducing
And
incident.
it actually throws you off financially.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And because of not having that, you'll be forced to go and borrow money at very high interest rates
True.
from credit cards, or even when it comes to the worst, end up with the Shylocks.
Yeah.
The second group of assets is called invested assets. Now here you put all your investments, whether it's a shamba, whether it's cooperative shares, whether it's unit trust fund, whatever investment you have, including even a business, the value of the business. Now, this category of assets is the most important as far as one's financial security is concerned. And this is the group of assets which you must always try to increase throughout your working life, because that's where you get money
Okay.
to take your kids to college.
Yes.
That's where you get money to buy your house. That's where you get money to live on when you're old. Without invested assets, the day your job ends is the day hell on earth begins for you.
I know.
Then the last category of assets is personal use assets. These are the things you buy for your own personal use,
Okay.
your car, your house, stuff like that.
Yes.
Here it's very important to understand that in the personal use assets, only the home is an appreciating asset.
Yes.
The others are depreciating.
Yes.
And some of them, like the car, make you spend more. So you should make very careful decisions as to how much you spend on them.
On your car.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then on the other side are the debts. Good debts and bad debts. You must realize the difference. You must understand the difference. Good debt, when you borrow money to buy a house and you can actually afford the mortgage, that's a fantastic debt. When you borrow money to take yourself for a course, which will increase the ability to earn, or invest the money in a business, a viable business, that's a good debt. But when you borrow money because you want to go for a holiday on Christmas, that's a no-no.
Yeah.
When you take higher purchase to get a nice sofa set,
That's bad debt.
That's bad.
That's bad debt.
Yeah.
So your net worth then is just your assets minus your liabilities.
Yes.
You know, in that case.
Yes.
And that's how we arrive at the Forbes richest people on the
Absolutely.
planet. That's basically how they make
yes,
that.
basically that's how they
Yeah,
they
so
do.
it's good for us to know. Okay, we're just about to go to commercial break, but before we do, I have an exercise here that I will hand out to our studio audience so that they can determine their net worth, or to put it in another way, how much you are worth. So get your pen and paper ready so we can do this together when we come back in a moment.
Karibu Sebuleni, tusemezane.
Welcome back. You're watching Sebuleni. Now we look at how to grow your money, regardless of how much you earn. But first, let's go through the basic steps of the net worth analysis.
In order to find out your exact financial position, what we do is we add up the assets which you have and the debts which you have. Assets are the things you own. Now the assets, if you look at the statement which you've got on your hand, you will find that the first column is where the assets are. The first group of assets are liquid assets. So please fill in any money which you have in the bank, savings accounts and current accounts. If you have a money market unit trust and you know the balance, just put it in. Once you've done that, add up to find the total liquid assets. The next step is to look at your investments. Are you a member of a cooperative society? How many shares do you have there? Then, if you own a unit trust, put it there, the amount of money you have there, the value of any stocks that you have, and then if you own any agricultural property, say a farm, remember, it's not what you bought it for, but rather it is what is the current value as of today. Then add up your total invested assets. The last group of assets is the things you own for your own personal use. You have household stuff, your personal, your clothes, all the things that you own for your own personal use. Remember, under personal use assets, you put the house that you live in. But if you own a house that you're going to, which is a rental property, it belongs in the invested assets category. Once you've added up your personal assets, to find the total assets, add up the three groups of assets. That is the liquid assets, the invested assets, and the personal use assets. Once you're through with the assets, let's go to the other side of the coin, and that is the debts, the liabilities. Do you have a HELB loan? Are you still paying your university loan? Or have you been hiding? If you have been hiding, just remember that sooner or later they'll catch up. And it's also accumulating interest. So please, write down your HELB loan balance. Whatever credit card balance you have, please put it there. If you own a house and which you have a mortgage on, the balance of that mortgage, it is also a debt. And that is what should be put under the liabilities, the balance of your mortgage. Any other loan that you have, bank loan, even the money that you owe a friend maybe. Remember that friend who calls you at work, then you tell your colleagues, tell him I'm on leave. You know, even those ones, put them there. So once you have added up the debts, subtract the total of your debts from the total of your assets. And the figure that you get is your net worth. Your net worth is a sum total of all the decisions you've made since the day you began to work. If you've been making good decisions, your net worth will be high.
Yes.
If you've been making poor decisions, it will be low. Of course, if you've been making disastrous decisions, it will be negative. So it is really crucial to know that. And that is a figure you should be watching throughout your life. Every year you should, at least once a year, you should do this statement so as to know whether you're progressing or you're going behind.
And I'm just wondering from people in the audience, you've done your net worth analysis just now, and perhaps we're not going to ask you to tell us how rich you are, but we are going to ask you, what did that, just doing that, going through that exercise, what did it do for you?
Okay, personally, it's really shown me that I need to work a lot harder.
Yeah.
A lot harder, yeah.
Was it shocking to you that
Very.
You just realized that, oops, I thought I was doing okay, but maybe not?
Yeah, it was very shocking for me. It's like I've been doing nothing, practically nothing. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. And thank you all for your input and for your participation. We are giving everyone in the audience today a copy of a spending plan. Courtesy of CB Africa. This will help you track your spending habits this year. So you can actually just put it in your computer and be able to track your spending this year. One final question, Manyara. You know, there's all of this issue about people saying, I don't have enough to invest. I don't have enough money. Where can I find the money to invest?
The first thing you need to do is find out where your money is going right now.
Yeah.
And the quickest way to do that is to record your expenditure. I believe you have already helped the audience here get step towards that by giving them that software.
Yeah.
The word budget has got very negative connotations to many people, but it need not be that way. You can look at it as a spending plan, what you want to do with your money. So first of all, write down how you're spending the money right now. Every 10 shillings you spend.
Yes.
Just jot it down.
Yes.
I know it sounds very silly, but in the end it becomes very eye-opening. Once you know where your money is going, then you can decide, you can start asking yourself questions. Is this what I want to do with the money? Then if the answer is no, then you start making adjustments.
Okay.
Okay, I don't want to drink coffee out every day, so I'll cut down on that. I don't want to do this, so you cut down accordingly. That's one place you find some money to invest. Another place is when we buy things on credit, we spend a lot of money on interest, sometimes a shocking amount of money, especially with credit cards. So control your debt. Do not borrow too much, because the more you're borrowing, the more interest you're paying. The more interest you're paying, the less you have.
Very interesting when you look at wealthy people. You know, they have very interesting habits. You know, I don't know how many of you notice, but a lot of wealthy people watch their pennies. You know, if that person drops 50 cents, they will pick it. you know. But for many of us, in your nice stilettos, you're like, oh, it's just a 50 cents, you know. So they've got a completely different mindset, you know, towards money, you know. But just the last question, Manyara, what do people need to do at whatever stages of their lives, very quickly, in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s, with regards to their money?
Okay, in your 20s, you're just starting out in a career. And you're young, full of life, enjoy your life.
Yes.
But at the same time, do some basic things like, first of all, begin budgeting. Next thing, make sure you're accumulating an emergency fund. When you enter your 30s, most people will be beginning to get families and such. Once you do that, then you have to start making sure that you have adequate health insurance, life
Yes.
insurance, and also now begin investing for those, if you get kids, for the children, and also for
That
a
actually
home.
becomes a priority,
Yes,
you know, health
yes.
insurance at that point. And
And
of course,
life
children are
insurance.
expensive. You know, a lot of us think you just have children, but you should actually plan to have children, you know.
Exactly.
They're quite an expensive,
It's true. People say that children are gifts from God.
Yes.
But what they don't finish telling you is that those gifts from God come with very, very energetic mouths. They can really eat you out of house.
yeah, and 40s?
40s, you'll be now focusing more. You probably have already bought your house. You'll be now beginning to focus on your retirement. So make sure that your pension fund, you're contributing the maximum possible, and also other investments beyond your investments. Now, once you start getting to the stage now when you're retiring, now your focus should be more now on things like estate planning,
Yes.
and also reduce the level of risk on your investments, because you don't have time anymore in case the market goes down. You would be negatively affected with your retirement income.
Okay.
So those are the kind of things you should do in
That
the
someone
different
should
stages
do.
in life.
Okay, great. But I think the important thing is to recognize the stage of life you're in,
Absolutely.
and then, you know, strategize
Yes.
around that particular stage of life. Don't
That's
just
true.
assume it.
It's
Well,
true.
thank you very much, Manyara, for coming, and for that input on how we can control our financial destinies.